Hey everybody, it's Candy, aka Brown Eye Girl 69. And now I'm back to have a chat about Las Vegas. The last video I left off basically letting y'all know that Daryl and I left Boulder September of 2013. Um we came across some money. I'm not for sure how we acquired the money. I can't remember the specifics. But we started looking for a ride share for somebody who was heading out of Denver towards the west. And we even posted that we were looking for a ride heading to Las Vegas. And this guy contacted us. He had a really nice Mercedes Benz wagon. He contacted us. He basically said it'd be $75 and he would want to take pictures of our photo IDs. And we would take pictures of his and that we could send to family or friends or whatever. So basically, people would know who we were with, and the same with him. So if anything happened, anything, we could be investigated or he could be investigated or whatever. But it didn't come down to that. But that was just a safety feature that he wanted to utilize, and we agreed to it. The ride was very smooth. We did go out on I-70. We were going through the mountains. And when we left like in the, I wouldn't say later evening, but I think we left more around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And at one point in time, I guess I fell asleep. Daryl was riding up in front with this guy named George. I was in the back seat. We had our gear in the trunk area. And I guess I dozed off. And at one point in time, I woke up and I could see snow blowing onto the car. And I looked out the window and could see snow. I felt like we were going at a high rate of speed. I wasn't for sure. All I know is I went back to sleep immediately. Probably because I just didn't want to sit there and put myself in anxiety or panic attack because of how fast this guy was driving in this snowstorm. Then we get to Utah, and we stopped somewhere in Utah. I don't even remember where it was. Heading down to Vegas, and it was at a pretty decent sized truck stop, convenience store, travel center, whatever you want to call it. We went in there to go to the bathroom, get some food, whatever it was. And then we basically, I think, we hung out there for a few hours. I think we slept for like 2 or 3 hours. And then we were on our way. When we got to Vegas the next day, early, probably more like early afternoon. Maybe it was evening. I can't remember how long it took us to get there. I just know that when we showed up there was a lot of stuff going on at the time in Vegas, and there was like a big a soccer competition going on with high schoolers, and that's why the guy that drove us there was there because of his job. He was a photographer. He also worked for somebody that was involved with the soccer thing. So he was there to do a job. He We didn't really want to be dropped off in downtown Las Vegas because I don't know why we didn't take the shot. We should have. It would have saved us a lot of heartache. A lot of heartache. I guess I can go ahead and continue on. And then I'll stop somewhere and tell you all a little bit of other information about Las Vegas. He dropped us off at the Starbucks. We're all hanging out. He's having a coffee. We're all sitting outside on their little patio. This guy walks up, starts talking to us, and we kind of tell him our story that this guy's dropping us off. We were kind of just asking for information, directions on how to get back. What was the quickest way to get back to the strip? He starts talking to us. Our ride leaves. This other guy basically tells us that he has an apartment just down the way, and that if we want to come over, charge our phones, get out of the heat for a little bit, that we were more than welcome to do so. Well, this guy seemed, okay, like an average Joe. So we said, okay. So we picked up our gear. We started walking with the guy who's talking to us. I think his name was Brad, now that I think about it. And we start walking and talking to this guy named Brad. He takes us back to his place. As soon as he opens the door, it was like a total wreck. His place was totally trashed. But I told myself that it was because he was a single guy. Anyway, Daryl and I come in. He had a couple of chairs. We sat in there, um, charged up our phones, was taking his Macy. We had some water. We had some snacks. He said he was going to go out. Well, I guess somebody called him or something. One of his friends showed up. What was his friend's name? Noah? Brad? Noah? Something like that. Well, anyway, Noah shows up and then they leave. And said they'd be back in a little bit. So Daryl and I are sitting there basically just charging our phones and contemplating on what we should do. Because we're starting to get the vibe that this dude's kind of weird. Anyway, him and his friend come back and they had some weed. And they gave us some. And they had brought back some Fago drinks. And next thing you know, they're shaking them up and spraying each other with it. Then they left again. But this time when they left, Brad told us, if you guys want to leave, it's okay. I got my key. Um, so if you guys are here when I get back, hey, cool. If not, maybe I'll see y'all around. We waited probably about 10 minutes and then we left. We got our stuff and left. We went to a 7-Eleven and then we left the 7-Eleven, walked down the street a few blocks, and there was a church. And it was dark by this time. It was starting to get pretty dark. I think the sun had basically set. We found us a place around the church and decided to set up camp there and sleep on their little patio. And it was the way it was designed and the way their front doors were set. Um, you couldn't see us from any street view. And I think there was like two streets, one on the main road and then one on the side road that the church was on. But the way the doors were set up and the way they had this like wall um, in and around their entryway, we were able to lay right there and we couldn't be seen. Well, we fell asleep. We woke up in the middle of the night, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, by a security guard. He wasn't a police officer, he was a security guard. There was a couple of them. And they asked us if we'd heard anybody screaming. I'm like, no, man. We've been crashed out here, shoot, since about probably 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock tonight, you know. We've been crashed out. And they're like, well, we got calls that there was a lady screaming over here. I'm like, no, we haven't heard anything. The only thing we know is that there was a little gathering down there at the other part of that church. Somebody was having a birthday or something like that. And they brought us a piece of cake. And then we went to sleep. But we basically haven't heard anything. And they're like, oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt your sleep. Have a good night. That was the first time we'd ever been woke up in the middle of the night by any kind of law enforcement security that told us to go back to sleep and have a good rest. It was kind of blew us away, you know. But we did. We went back to sleep. Got up the next morning and decided that we were going to head to the strip. Make a long story short, we could see the stratosphere, so we was just heading in that direction, down this main road. Back in the day when we were homeless, I did have a cell phone, but I didn't have like 100% connection to being online. I didn't have a data program or anything like that, data plan, anything like that. So, for me to be able to get online and see where the nearest bus was or how much it would cost for us to take a bus down to where we needed to, we just didn't have that. And so we just walked and walked and walked and walked. And we'd stopped a lot too in between the walks. We'd had all of our gear on us. It was heavy. We'd have to stop. It was the heat. It was crazy. We'd have to stop and take a rest every 15, 20 minutes. All in all, I think we wound up walking about 7 miles. We never even made it to the strip completely by walking. We got turned around and got on a road and we couldn't figure out our way out. Well, we made our way to a casino that was just down the way from where we got turned around. And there was a bus stop there, and we was able to get on a bus there and get to the strip. We get to the strip and we're on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Flamingo Road. And I believe the name of the casino that we were in front of, Bellagio was on, what was that, Caesar's Palace? It was either the Bellagio or Caesar's Palace that we were standing across the street from. It might have been Paris. I can't remember. I just know we were on the corner of Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard. Daryl had his guitar, he had an amp, everything, but they would not allow him to play it out there. But he had a harp with a broken reed, and he jammed that thing along. In the middle of the night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, there were still tons of people out there walking around, throwing him money. I think he collected a total of like 30, 40 bucks in just a couple hours. There was a couple of pillars there, and I just leaned up against one and kind of dozed off next to him, you know, kept an eye on me, and finally woke me up and said, hey, let's go over here and see if we can't find a place to sleep. And we slept basically not right on Flamingo Road, but it was like a little sidewalk area that came off of the strip onto the side of the casino. We just laid down there and went to sleep. We were so tired. Next morning, woke up. Daryl woke me up. He said, "Babe, wake up. We got breakfast." One of the workers, I guess, had seen us sleeping out there, and they had a breakfast buffet. And they went in and made me and Daryl both a styrofoam plate of food, a styrofoam box full of food. We had like eggs, sausage, bacon, biscuits, gravy, and some hash browns. It was amazing. I'm trying to think, what did we do that day? We hung out on the strip, and he basically played his harp all day, and I sat there basically with him. I wasn't in a very good way at that point in time, and so I was having to get up a lot and go to the bathroom, but inside the casino. So I wasn't always there with him, but when I came back, he usually always had some kind of food that had been thrown down to us, more money. We decided probably by that evening that we weren't going to sleep on the strip anymore. And we decided to try to find a place to crash away from the strip. So that evening, right as the sun was probably setting, we headed out. And I can't remember why we went to the 7-Eleven, but we went to the 7-Eleven. And right out in front of the 7-Eleven was a bench. But it wasn't on the bus stop. And because of the fact that I was in the condition I was in, Daryl was like, "Hey, lay down, sleep." So I laid there and slept. Then we got up, walked. I don't know how far we walked, but we finally came to a Circle K. And they had a little indention thing, and Daryl set up in a way where I could sleep behind him. We stayed there till morning. Then the next morning we got up. Daryl was exhausted. We found another out of the way space and he got to sleep after I went and got us some drinks and a little bit of food. And came back and he fell asleep for a little while. And we didn't have the fear of being caught because of where we were located. We were definitely hidden behind a building that was like an office building, but nobody was in the office buildings. It was an abandoned office building, basically. And we were kind of behind it. Anyway, we walked on further down that day, and we finally came to an area where there was this like 99-cent store. And there were some palm trees, and it was across the street from the library, one of the libraries they had there in Las Vegas. And then across the street from there was a laundromat and a grocery store. And there was, a few fast food places around. Gas station, Walgreens, CVS, whatever. So we decided that's where we were going to hang out for a while. We slept there the first night underneath these palm trees. The next night, we made our way a little further down and we found a little business park area where we could sleep, and it's where we slept for like the next 7-8 days. After a while of us going up to the library, trying to find resources in town, all sorts of things happened to us in Vegas. Daryl's cousin Happy lived there. We looked up his phone number, his house phone, and called him. Left a message. Never heard back. Day or two went by. We tried to call again. Nothing. Our phones went out, but we ran across a guy at the 99-cent dollar store that knew somebody that could get us a cell phone, a government cell phone. All we had to do was give him an address, and we gave him this dude's address, and we had a phone. We both had a phone that day. Turned on, everything activated with minutes. Like, I think we each got like 500 minutes a month. You could use all your minutes in talk time, or you could split them up between texting and talking. So after we got these new phones, we tried to call one more time. We tried to call Daryl's cousin one more time. Left another message. Well, I think it was within an hour of us leaving that message, we were getting a phone call back from Happy's wife, and she told us that she would have Happy call us when he got home from work. Well, he was a masseuse, and he worked for the Mandalay Bay, and he was a massage therapist. He got home around 7 in the evening. Gave us a call. Asked us what was going on. We told him. He asked us where we were located. We told him. And he came and picked us up. Brought us back to his house, which was a very nice house. We had a room. We had our own bathroom. Daryl's uncle was there. His Uncle Phil. And of course his cousin Happy, Happy's wife, and then their son was in this house. We got to do up our clothes. We got to take a shower. We got a nice soft bed to sleep in. They fed us some decent food. And they hosted us for about 3 days. In that 3-day period of time, I was allowed to use the computer. I also was looking for jobs as well as possibilities of other places that Daryl and I could go. Basically came down to his cousin told us that he would buy us a bus ticket anywhere we wanted to go. It didn't matter. He would buy it and make sure we got there to that destination. And I'll get back to the ending of the story here in a second. But basically, I told Daryl that I didn't want to follow in his footsteps that him and his first wife, had been in. And like I said, he lived in Las Vegas from August of 2001 until January of 2004. Him and his wife went homeless. And when they left Vegas, they went immediately to California, and then they went straight south down to Ensenada, Mexico. When they got down there, they realized that their opportunities weren't going to be that great, and they didn't speak Spanish, so they decided they needed to come back to the United States. So they made their way back up to the United States, etc., and went on their path and journey until they were no longer, and then I met Daryl. I basically told Daryl I didn't want to follow in this same previous footsteps that him and his previous wife had been on. We had met a friend in Boulder who basically left, I think, about a week before we did, and went to Tucson, Arizona. And she basically said that if we ever made it down that way, to contact her, she'd give us her phone number, her email, and she would have a place more likely that we could hang out and crash at for a while, if need be. So we contacted her, and she gave us the green light to come down to Tucson. So that's what we did. We had Daryl's cousin Happy buy us a ticket to Tucson, and that was our next stop. Before that, Happy wanted to make sure we enjoyed Las Vegas for a little bit before we left, so he asked me what there was one thing I wanted to do, and I told him, I was like, well, I've never been to the Shark Reef in Mandalay Bay. And he's like, well, that's perfect because I have an employee discount since I work there. So he took me and Daryl to the Shark Reef in Mandalay Bay. He took me and Daryl to a breakfast buffet before we went to the Mandalay Bay Shark Reef. Him and his wife took us out, I think, to a steak and shake one night. He also took us out to the Bellagio Hotel. It was harvest time almost. So they were setting up their different rooms and ballrooms and stuff like that with the harvest theme. And so he took us there, and it was really cool. We got a lot of really cool photos from that. And that was about it. He bought us our tickets. His uncle and him gave us some money, so we'd each have some money in our pockets when we did arrive to Tucson, and that was my journey in Vegas in 2013. We were there for a total of, we were on the streets for a total of 11 days, and then we stayed with his cousin for 3 days. So we were there for probably about 2 weeks, 2 weeks, one day, something like that. Like I said, Daryl had lived there previously from August of 2001 until January 2004. Me, I'd never been to Vegas until April of 2003 is the first time I went. I went with Kelsey's dad's friends. They had went in April 2002 with Kelsey's dad. And they were going back for their 1 year anniversary because they got married out there in April 2002, and in April 2003 they were going back. But Don, Kelsey's dad, had passed away in October of 2002. So they asked me if I wanted to go. So I said, sure. Then the next time I experienced Vegas was with Daryl in 2013. And then the next time I experienced Vegas was in December of 2019 after I'd left Oregon and was coming. I didn't want to drive all the way through Cali. So I basically drove down to Mount Shasta, over to Reno, and then down to Nevada or Las Vegas. And then after I left Las Vegas, I went down to Joshua Tree area for a little bit, and then I headed over to San Diego for about a week before I started to head back east and up to Colorado. So December 2019 was the last time I was in Vegas, and I was living in my van, traveling, and I didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't really enticed to want to go into any of the casinos and try my luck at anything. I mainly came back just so I could drive around and look at some of the places that Daryl and I had been. And I did eat at one of the restaurants Daryl and I ate at. It was called Blueberry Hill. That was about it. I did go to a dispensary there. I think it was called Planet something. Way expensive, like way over budget. Anyways, peace, love, hugs, nugs. And until the next time, the next story will be about Tucson, Arizona. And I'm out.